Welcome to Elevate Online. I'm Pastor Derek. So glad you could join us for this special night. As you can tell, it's a special night. It is Pumpkin Fest for Elevate Live. Right now, if you're watching this right at the premiere, we are meeting together. Fun night of games and costume contest. Wanted to show you, this is my costume, as you could probably tell. And so this is our 7th annual Pumpkin Fest, which is pretty cool. I thought, let's play at least one game together online. And so here is a game we play almost every year, a different version. They come up with a new one like every year. And it is, did they pumpkin spice it? And it's a simple thing. You're going to see an item and you have to guess whether or not they've actually added pumpkin spice to it. Okay? So real simple. All right, first one, Spam. What do you think? They spiced it. Can you believe that? Ugh, that sounds gross. All right, Kit Kats. Probably a good chance, right? It's a candy bar. They did spice it. Still doesn't look very good. All right, Goat Milk. Actually, that kind of makes sense. It's milk, pumpkin spice, but no, they did not spice it. So sorry if you're looking for your pumpkin spice goat milk. All right, Sprite. That sounds weird, and it is weird because they didn't spice it. All right, how about Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper, they didn't spice it. So not no sodas. All right, Dog Latte. Okay, first of all, I didn't know there was such a thing as a dog latte. So full disclosure. And yes, they did spice it. I mean, if you're gonna make a dog latte, why not make a pumpkin spice? I mean, just makes sense, I guess. Pop-Tarts? Yes, actually I just had these recently. All right, hand sanitizer. Don't know why you'd want to pumpkin spice it, but let's see if they did. Yes, they did. So there you go. You can be safe and away from germs and also smell like fall, I guess. All right. Acne cream. Your skin could smell like a pumpkin pie. They didn't spice it, so sorry if you're looking for that. All right. Fishing worms. I guess, do fish like pumpkin spice? Apparently they do because they spiced it. All right. Sneakers. I have no idea what this means, but apparently they did spice it. I don't know. You have to look them up. I don't know. So there you go. There's, did they pumpkin spice it? Well, hey, as I said, tonight is Pumpkin Fest. And if you're ever able to join us live, we do meet every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. This coming Wednesday, so a week from tonight on November 4th, we will be having our last Elevate Live outdoors. So love for you to join us. You see the address there. Same time, 7 to 8 p.m. You can show up anytime after 6:45. Love for you to join us. Hey, this Friday we don't have a campfire conversation, but we do the following week, and it is from 8 to 10 as they all have been. It's going to be at the McFarland home. It'll be November 6th, and anyone who'd like to join us. This isn't for a specific small group. It's for anyone who'd like to join us for a campfire, some s'mores, and good conversation. You're welcome to join us. As I said, tonight is Pumpkin Fest, but I want to let you know of something that wasn't originally on the calendar and another theme night that we're going to have in November. That is Night of the Lumberjack. It's going to be a Lumberjack theme night, so grab your flannel and come on out. It's going to be a fun night. It's going to be November 18th during our regular Elevate hour, and that'll be during Elevate Live. Just a reminder, ways to stay informed. Don't forget, you can check out the calendar and info sheet. You can get that at elevateparents.org. Texting service, one of the main ways we communicate with you, and also Instagram. We can hang out and communicate there. And as I said, elevateparents.org. So tonight we're wrapping up our series on how to deal with conflict. And as we've been talking about, conflict is sadly a part of our world. We live in a fallen world and conflict is a part of it. And it can sometimes feel like a daily boxing match in the ring with a T-Rex, right? At times it seems unavoidable. And as Christ followers, it's important for us to deal with conflict in a redemptive way. The point is not always to avoid conflict, even though some conflict is from our own choices, but some of it's unavoidable. It's part of our world. It's part of being in relationships with other people. And so the important thing is, how do we deal with conflict in a redemptive way? And so in this series, we've been looking at this. And first week, we looked at first we looked at the church community, with the example of the disciples and how we all have different opinions. And that's part of being a part of a welcoming and diverse community. And that's so important. And from the disciples, we saw from their life how they worked together and worked through conflict because they focused on the who, not on the what. Meaning they focused on who united them. And we're called to focus on who unites us. It's Jesus, not on what divides us. Focus on Jesus, the one who unites us, not on what divides us. And when we do that, we begin to see others through Jesus's lens of love. And then last week, we looked at how Jesus never said we wouldn't have enemies. That's interesting, right? But he did say that we are called to love them and to pray for them. We're called to love them and pray for them. Imagine if we did that. Wow. And as Christ followers, we looked at this example from an epistle from the Apostle Paul. And as Christ followers, our lives should be defined by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, especially when we're dealing with conflict. Those are so important things to be evident. They're fruit of the Spirit. It's the evidence of God's work in our lives, and we're called to live those out in the midst of conflict. And this week, I want to talk about how do we deal with people who choose to do evil, to commit evil against us? Because sometimes it's not just about a matter of an opinion. It's deeper than that. There are going to be people, sadly, in our lives who choose to commit evil and that choose to try to hurt us or harm us. And so how do we deal with that? It's interesting because when someone commits evil against you, the world says you have two options, right? When someone commits evil, you have two options. Either you can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to return evil with evil. What I love about Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus offers us a third way, a third option, a creative and redemptive option. And we see that in Matthew 5, 38 through 41. This is from the same sermon that we pulled scripture from last week. And Jesus says this, "You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles." This is interesting, right? Because this was it was this idea of, okay, if someone takes your eye, you can take their eye. Commits this to you, you can take them. And that's often how we see the world, right? Well, if you hurt me, I'm going to at least hurt you more than as much as you hurt me, but usually it doesn't stop there, right? We want to hurt them more than they hurt us. And that continues this unhealthy cycle of evil, and it just accelerates and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is a lot of the issues with the world that we're in today, is because we just continue this cycle of violence and of evil and saying, I'm going to hurt you more than you hurt me. And Jesus says, no, we're to drive a spoke in that cycle of evil and say, you know what? We're called to do something more. Now, we're not called to be victims. Jesus never calls us to be victims, but he also doesn't call us to return evil with evil. Jesus' third way, it's this creative and restorative option that does not make us victims, while at the same time we do not continue the cycle of evil, right? Now, I love how he uses different examples. He doesn't say, hey, there's a third option. He actually gives examples that would have made a lot of sense, been groundbreaking to the original audience as it is for us today. So let's look at them. So first of all, turn the other cheek. He says, anyone slaps you in the cheek, turn them the other cheek also. See, Jesus was teaching that hitting back only keeps evil in circulation. Offering the other cheek means, like, someone slaps you, you offer the other one, they could hit you again, but as an equal, not as an inferior. It's almost like you're elevating yourself and saying we're equals because I'm letting you hurt me. But see, and it's not really about the physical pain. If you've ever been slapped, it's not about the physical pain as much as it's about it's an insult. It was actually considered culturally like an insult, more than just like a physical pain. It was insulting, it was demeaning. I don't know if you've ever been slapped in the face. I hope not, but I have. And it's very insulting, it's demeaning feeling. And so the main heart of this is, you're not gonna demean me. You know what, I'm not gonna return this. I'm gonna actually make you feel embarrassed because I'm not going to actually stoop to your level of slapping you back. At the same time, you could slap me again on the other cheek, but you know, most of the time people wouldn't want to because they feel so you know, bad, and they feel you know what? Oh, they feel low because and it's making them aware of the evil they're committing. And then he says, "Give your coat. If anyone wants to sue you, take your shirt, hand over your coat as well." So in this world in culture and context that Jesus is speaking into, most people own two garments, their coat and their shirt. And so what he's actually saying here, this is a little awkward, but it's a little extreme. But he actually is saying, like, if they want to take your shirt, okay, give them the other one. And as one author puts it, shame him with your impoverished nakedness. Now, I'm not saying that you should go, you know, shame people with your nakedness. That's not what I'm saying. No, this is an example from that era. But it's actually saying, you know what? You're not going to continue the cycle of this evil, but you're also going to make Jesus' third way, this creative way of making the oppressor aware of the evil they're committing, but not committing the evil yourself. Do you see that? How this would probably make this person think again about doing this to another person. And then the last one, walking the extra mile. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. So back then, the Roman law was that if a Roman soldier wanted you to carry their pack for them, they could legally make you, even if you're walking this way and they're walking this way, they could say, hey, I need you to carry my pack this way. Even if you're late for work, it doesn't matter. And they could legally force you to go 1 mile, okay? But it was illegal for a Roman guard or any soldier to make you go 1 foot, 1 step past 1 mile. And so people had gotten used, they knew exactly how to count the steps. And as soon as they hit that mile, guess what they would usually do? Drop their bag in the dirt, say, see ya, and they're off. Jesus is saying, if they make you do, this is wrong that they're doing this, but instead of like fighting it, just walk another mile. Could you imagine being the soldier who knew that it was illegal for him to force you to go another mile? He'd be so afraid. He's like, what are you doing, you crazy person? You're going to get me in trouble. Don't go another mile. So people aren't going to believe me that I didn't force you. And imagine if his commanding officer found out, he probably would be too scared to do this again to another person. I love that. See that? How it's creativity and making someone aware of the evil they're committing, but not committing evil yourself. You're not a victim, but you're also not continuing the cycle of evil. So I'm wondering, how could you apply Jesus' third way in your own life? A few years ago, I read this story that I think is a really good example. This person named Julio Diaz, Julio probably is how you should pronounce that, has a daily routine. Every night, the 31 years old at the time, social worker, ends his hour-long subway commute to the Bronx 1 stop early so he can eat at his favorite diner. But one night, last month, as Diaz stepped off the number 6 train and onto a nearby empty platform, his evening took an unexpected turn. He was walking toward the stairs when a teenage boy approached and pulled out a knife. He wants my money, so I just gave him my wallet and told him, here you go, Diaz says. As the teen began to walk away, Diaz told him, hey, wait a minute, you forgot something. If you're going to be robbing people for the rest of the night, you might as well take my coat to keep you warm. The would-be robber looked at his would-be victim. Like, what's going on here? Diaz says. He asked me, why are you doing this? Diaz replied, if you're willing to risk your freedom for a few dollars, then I guess you must really need the money. I mean, all I want to do is get dinner, and if you really want to join me, hey, you're more than welcome. You know, I just felt maybe he really needs help, Diaz continued. Diaz said he and the teen went to the diner and sat in a booth. The manager comes by, the dishwashers come by, the waiters come by, and they all say hi. The kid was like, you know everybody here. Do you own this place? No, I just eat here a lot, Diaz told the teen. He says, but you even were nice to the dishwasher. Diaz replied, well, haven't you been taught that you should be nice to everybody? Yeah, but I didn't think people actually behave that way, the teen said. Diaz asked him what he wanted out of life. He just had almost a sad face, Diaz continued. The teen couldn't answer Diaz, or he didn't want to. When the bill arrived, Diaz told the teen, look, I guess you're going to have to pay for this bill because you have my money and I can't pay for this. So if you give me my wallet back, I'll gladly treat you. The teen didn't even think about it and returned the wallet. Diaz said, I gave him $20. I figure it'll help him. I don't know. Diaz says he asked for something in return, the teen's knife, and he gave it to me. Afterward, when Diaz told his mother what had happened, she said, "You're the type of kid that if someone asked you for the time, you gave them your watch." I figure, if you treat some people right, you can only hope that they treat you right. It's as simple as it gets in this complicated world. Now, stories don't always end that way, but that's just a beautiful example of someone who it was redemptive, it was restorative for the other person, and he didn't allow himself to be the victim, but he didn't allow himself to continue the cycle of evil. There's even an example, I know that this is a week for a different holiday, but there's an example in a Christmas classic, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I want you to watch this clip and see how the Who's down in Whoville utilized Jesus' third way.
Woe to the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. What? This sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
Jesus never calls us to be victims, but he also never calls us to return evil with evil. He offers us this creative and restorative and redemptive third option. So as a reflection question for you, how can you practice Jesus' third way in your own life? Think about that. Let's get practical. I love how Jesus didn't just say, hey, there's a third option. He actually gives examples of this third option. But think about how can you practice Jesus' third way in your own life? Well, I want to end as we have been during this whole series, and that is with saying the prayer of St. Francis together. Would you pray with me? The words are on the screen. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Well, before you go, I want to remind you that you matter, you belong, and God has a purpose for your life. Until next week, see ya.